Hey team, hope you're well. This week and last week, I had two teams I was working with. One smaller organisation that's trying to adapt to a government contract that it's winning, that's expecting it to be a certain way and do a certain new set of activities. And the second is a much larger organisation that is working through how it teams internally to be able to serve its major client that it's got across 3 or 4 different contracts. Each of them have got a dynamic external situation, like a dynamic external set of stakeholders, both internally in terms of what's those people that are guiding them and have a stake in the team, but also externally in terms of those different contracts and people I talked about. So what I'm going to share with you today is how you can achieve team alignment, both within your team, but also then how do you make sure that team's aligned externally? And I'm going to share how I do it with teams. And so that you can hopefully do this for yourself. Again, if you need help, if you need someone to come in and work with your team to make sure it's aligned within and outside, then get in contact with me and we can talk about how that would work for you and if we're a good fit to work together. So team alignment, the first thing to sort of get a sense of is that there's 3 levels to this. There's the individual level, there's the team level, there's the ecosystem level, and then the broader expectations of the community. Most times I actually start with the self. There is a couple of aspects to this, which is there is an aspect of freedom, and then there's an aspect of compromise. And both of these are really important. So in any team, an individual should feel like they can have a view, right? Which is what the freedom bit is. They can have a perspective. They can see things the way they see them. Without that, we live in a dictatorship. And it's very important that people both feel like they've got the freedom, but then they know that on certain things, they will need to compromise for the good of that external team or the ecosystem that they work in. The other key thing is that the team itself from up here and its alignment with the ecosystem should provide greater value to those individuals because they get a sense of connection to the team, but they also get a sense of the connection to the external world. So understanding that in team, we are not about avoiding self is really important because you want the full motivation and you want the full buy-in from those team members. Then when it comes to team, there's really 2 aspects to this. There is recognizing that, let's just change that a little bit, that each of these individuals can work in position or they work in perspective. So when they work in position, they think in either geographies, functions, departments. They, what big organizations called, they think in silos. And when they think in perspective, they're able to shift out into seeing what is expected of them by the ecosystem. So Peter Hawkins, who I follow, who's a systemic team coach, talks a lot about getting clear on what is being asked of you by the external world. What is the work that this team needs to do together? Oops, let me write that in blue. That only they can do together. And that is being asked of them by their clients, by their investors, sometimes by their suppliers, sometimes by then their internal stakeholders, their internal board or boss, for want to use a better term. So when the team's in perspective, they're able to see that there is something being asked of them by their external world. So rather than in the self down here, they're getting locked into their own view, they're able to shift up into perspective and see that there's something being asked of them. And that shifts their perspective into the perspective of one. And when they're in the perspective of one, they're able to see that as one team, they've got a task to do, or a multiple tasks to do that serve that ecosystem and ultimately serve their community. Now, this also operates upwards and also operates downwards. So once that perspective shifts, you're then able to align the oneness within the team to the ecosystem and the tasks and expectations of that external world. And you're then able to shift what you need to in how the team operates within themselves so that each person gets more value. Each person can be more valuable, more motivated, more aligned, and have more buy-in. So keep these three levels in mind when you're working with your team, and make sure that when you're working within teams that you're clear about those three levels: the level of the individual, the level of the way the team comes together as one, and the level of the expectations of the ecosystem. And if you're watching this and you think, what, it'd be great to have some help to help make that happen, then please get in touch with me and we can have a conversation if there's a good fit.